Good evening and welcome to the regular board meeting for Sunrise School Division. My name is Paul Mang, I'm the board chair, and this is our for January the 7th meeting. I'm going to call our meeting to order, and I'm going to, we're going to play O Canada and by Springfield Middle School. Please stand if you can do so. So welcome to our first board meeting in 2025. Welcome to everyone. We're going to, and thank you to Springfield Middle School. We are going to have our treaty acknowledgement, and I'm going to ask Trustee Wilson to read out our treaty acknowledgement, please.
We acknowledge the traditional land upon which Sunrise School Division resides as Treaty 1 territory. We honor our partnership with Canada's original peoples and respect the gifts of Indigenous history, culture, and language. We commit to moving forward in partnership with our communities in a spirit of collaboration and reconciliation.
Thanks, Trustee Wilson. Before we get underway, for the people that are watching online, we have in our room, we have Superintendent Reed, we have a Secretary Treasurer Thiessen, we have Assistant Superintendent Fieldberg, we have Trustee Rowland, Trustee Smith, Trustee Wilson, Trustee Nickel, Trustee Dent, Trustee Rowan, Trustee Boyton, and Trustee Harris. We also have our board support, Sarah Scott. And with us tonight as well, we have George Waldner. George is the principal at Brightstone Colony School, and he's going to be making a presentation to us later, so welcome, George. We need to adopt the agenda, so be it resolved that the board approve the agenda. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Nichols, seconded by Trustee Rowan. Do we need to remove one thing from the agenda? I think that's already been done. Okay, thank you. Any questions to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. Thank you. Passed 9-0. Chair's comments, a reminder that if you have any questions for the meeting, please send the questions to jody.thiessen@sunrisesd.ca. Put your name and address of the sender to be included in the email, and we'll try to get to those questions at the end of our meeting. I am going to open the floor to share a story. So trustees, share a story, anyone? Trustee Wilson.
On December 17th, I attended the grade 3 to 6 holiday concert at Centennial School, and on December the 18th, the K-2 concert. I really enjoyed both concerts, and the students performed their individual parts extremely well. They were just delightful. The students and staff worked incredibly hard to perform such a polished performance. What a lovely way to start the holiday season. A sincere thank you to the staff of Centennial School.
Thanks, Trustee Wilson. Anyone else? Trustee Boyton.
I had the pleasure to attend 7 Christmas concerts, and they were all absolutely wonderful. I just want to extend credit and appreciation to our students and staff for all the extra work and time they tackled to put on these events. So much goes into these concerts, from decorating to programs, setting up stages and chairs, and the list goes on and on. It is such a perfect opportunity to showcase the talents of our students, and they are always so well attended, bringing our communities together. So just thank you to everyone. The next Hazel Ridge PAC meeting is on Wednesday, January 15th at 6:30. And I just want to give a special acknowledgement to Cobra Enterprises for paying for the rental of Cooks Creek Community Center for the Hazel Ridge Christmas concert. Thank you so much for your generosity. Happy New Year to everyone. Wishing you a year filled with hope, health, and happiness.
Thanks, Trustee Boydson. Anyone else? Trustee Rowan?
I'd also like to thank the schools for their hard work in preparing for the holiday concerts that happened in December. I had the opportunity to attend many of the concerts in the Oakbank and Dugald area, and I enjoyed every one of them. Leading into events happening now in the new year, this Saturday, January 11th, is when Oakbank Parents for Ukrainian Education will be hosting their Malonka event at the Cooks Creek Community Center. I had the pleasure of attending last year, and I'm looking forward to attending again this year. It is a family-friendly event that offers the community an opportunity to celebrate their traditions while bringing in the Ukrainian New Year. Tickets are still available if you're wanting to attend. And additionally, the Springfield Music Parents Association will be having their next meeting on Monday, January 20th at 7 p.m. in the SCI Band Room.
Thanks, Trustee Rowan. Anyone else? Trustee Nicol?
I had the privilege to attend two concerts, one at White Mouse School and one at the White Shell Colony. White Shell Colony is a little bit unique, probably, maybe not necessarily because I haven't gone to all the colonies, but when they have a Christmas concert, it's more like a community Christmas concert, which means adults also take part in the concert, which makes it interesting. On December the 20th, the White Mouse School had a pancake breakfast for everybody from K to 12. It was put on by the staff and of the school. After the breakfast, the K to 12 went caroling, and then after that, they had what we used to call sock hops. So they had a dance kind of, but it's what we used to call sock hops anyway. And also, along with that, the Grinch made a visit to White Mouse School, but they couldn't find him. They know he was there, but it took, I think, maybe 2 hours trying to find him, and they never did find him. But so that was something that was, and they were quite interested in that. I was supposed to get a video, and I didn't get a video yet, so I'm going to post. I will send the video to you later on when I get it sent to me. I thought it was sent to me already, but it wasn't. So, okay, that was it.
Trustee Nicol, you're dating yourself when you're talking about sock hops. I'll tell you, but good for you. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? So I'm not going to talk about anything specific, as in the fact is that many of you have said thank you to our staff and our students, and it's for all the activities that go on around Christmas time. It's all the activities that we're doing for fundraisers and hamper baskets that schools are putting together, and the work that's put there and get them out to people. So kudos to all the work that's going on. Trev, I think that I've heard from a lot of the schools about there was many activities going on, so certainly pass that along from the board, that we're very appreciative of all the work that our staff do over the holidays. So thank you for that. We're going to move on. Okay. Board delegation, I'm going to turn this over to you, Mr. Reid, and you can introduce.
So as you've already mentioned, we're welcoming Mr. George Waldner from Brightstone Colony Springwell School here this evening. So he's going to tell us a little bit about his school goals and all the neat stuff that they're doing at their school.
Mike? Okay, I'm George. As you all know, I'm the principal at Springwell School, and I'll be presenting our goal and how far we've come or how little we've done, depending on everybody's point of view. So our goal statement is by the end of May, 100% of our students will be producing written work in a variety of genres at or above the grade level. And our end goal is to publish a book. If you're not from Brightstone, you don't know about our community kitchen, or if you're not from Brightstone, you don't know about our tunnels. So every part of the colony will have a page dedicated to this book by each student, hopefully. That's our end goal. Our ongoing goal, we've had that for many years, is by the end of 25, 100% of our students will be above or at or above grade level in reading comprehension and inferencing across all subject areas. With EAL students, it's always important, I feel, to keep the literacy always at the back burner. Even if it is a math goal, you still need a literacy goal, because they only speak English when they come to us. They speak German at home all the time. So what led to the creation of this goal? We've made great progress, I think, in our goals of writing, reading comprehension, and inferencing. Divisional progressions and report card data clearly shows that we need to continue with these goals in order for all of our students to become proficient and successful. Writing, I think, should be fluent, it should be easy, it shouldn't be, I don't know how to put it, but it seems to be an uphill struggle with all students at all times, and I don't want that to be. I want it to become an enjoyable process or enjoyable activity. I just included some of our first term reading and writing scores, and as you can see, there's quite a few 2s and 3s, not too many 4s. So that's another reason why we picked that goal. The strategies that we'll be using is dedicated time in EAL period, and then throughout the day working on practicing comprehension and inferencing skills across all curriculum, specifically in science and social studies. I mean, you don't just have EAL for the 1 hour period or for the 45-minute period. You have to include it in your social studies and science, which is a big part of literacy as well. Divisional toolkits, sentence science, a program to support the teaching of strong sentence structure when speaking, listening, reading, and writing. The U-Fly, we're just getting started with that. As you all know, Canada Post was on strike, and we just got our resources a week before Christmas, so that's one of our things we'll be incorporating as soon as we can get it going. And working with Donna Basil, who is a local author who comes to the colonies, I think to quite a few other schools, to do writer workshops with the students. Where did we start? Grades 5 to 8, we went right back to the basics in September. 5 things writers do, 5 things readers do, 5 things listeners do, and 5 things speakers do. And we came up with this together and just put it together in a little presentation that we had up on the walls and stuff. The grades 1 to 4, they did the sentence science. It's basic teaching of strong sentence structure when speaking and listening, reading, and writing through the use of pictures to develop good, strong sentences. Can you zoom this in, Trevor? Yeah, the picture on the right. If you see that those are some of our, I think, grade 2 boys. They're actually writing quite a bit now compared to what they were at the beginning of the year. I just thought I'd share a few samples of what they did or what they're working on. The spelling is not that great, but they got the idea down, which is good. Next. Writing rubric, peer and self-writing editing checklist. This is also a work in progress. My vision, or our vision, is to have little check mark boxes beside each 1, 2, 3, 4, where students will be editing and revising their own work, with peer editing especially. I find it's really effective. If we have students editing each other's work before they send it off to the teacher or to me to be edited and for final proofreading and publishing. Next. Am I going too fast? Do you have any questions? Am I good? Yep. Where we're at, the grades 1 to 4 sentences, paragraphs, and short stories. And if you look at the pictures, you'll see that they're writing quite a bit already, actually, which is very good for EAL students, I think. Starting from basic sentences to paragraphs and now short stories. And then a sample of one, if you're not from Brightstone, you don't know about the biomass. So quite well done. It's not perfect, but before we publish it, we'll maybe give it to all of you to edit, I'm not sure. Yeah, next. Report card data will still shows too many 2s and 3s and not enough 4s. That's our conclusion. We are making progress towards our final goal of producing a published book if you're not from Brightstone. If you have any questions.
Thanks, George. Appreciate it. So we will turn it over to trustees to see if trustees have some questions. Anyone? Donna?
I just want to share a comment that I shared with George earlier, though. How impressed I was with the rubrics for self-checking and peer editing. I thought that was a really excellent idea. And I also thought what a motivational tool to publish a book. So I just wanted to share that publicly, what I shared with George earlier. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Donna. Anyone else? George, I have some. So right on your conclusion, it talks about report card data still shows too many 2s and 3s and not enough 4s. How are you getting to the 4s?
Practice, practice, practice. The more opportunities you give students to read, write, the better they'll become. It's just like with anything. You can't expect, especially in this scenario with other eye kids, you can't expect them to become proficient at reading and writing if you don't give them the chance to practice and to hone their skills. I think that's, and good teaching as well, good modeling. I would say 15 to 20 minutes of every writing class I spend modeling what good writing is. So it's a lengthy process, especially with EAL kids, I find.
Are you going to get there? Are you going to get there?
Yes. Not with all of them, obviously. I'm hoping to, but not all 4s, Paul, definitely not.
Okay. The other thing that you've, in one of your slides, George, you talk about students to become proficient and successful. Tell us what is, so you said students to become successful. What does successful mean to you? And then I guess, because that's then for your students, what does successful mean?
Successful to me for my students means if they pick up something to read, they'll be able to decipher what the true message of the article or the story is, to be able to pick out key points without having to run to me to tell them or to ask me or to ask their adult. Basically, the long and the short of it, to be able to crap detect. What's a good source, what's not a good source, what's reliable, what's not reliable, and to be able to write and to explain and to express themselves. So if you ask them, why do you live on a Hutterite colony? I want them to be able to express and explain to them, to whoever they're talking to, why they're there and why they don't want to be there. I will never ever say to students they should stay. I always say to them there's two sides to every equation and there's two sides of life. There's Hutterite life and there's outside life. I may get my hands banged a couple times with parents, but I'm preparing my students for a successful life on and off the colony, if they so choose. And I think to be able to have a successful life off the colony, you need to be able to read and write and understand what you're reading and what you're writing. So that to me is proficiency, and that to me is success, once I've achieved this in all of my students.
So to get there, do you have what you need to get there?
In terms of resources, yes. Status quo, if we can keep status quo, I think will be okay. We have the EA part to work one-on-one with students who need the extra help. We have the resources like books that we need for now. And I'm sure if I need something else, there's always a way to get that as well.
Thanks, George. Anything else for George from anyone? Rain?
I just want to say I look forward to reading. If you're not from Brightstone, so I hope you'll share it with us.
I certainly will. Maybe they'll even come and present it to you. I don't know.
You know what? Let's take you up on that. let's take you up on that, and the fact is, let's get your students to come out here, and let's see about that, because again, part of it is you've thrown down something here that's pretty bold, and the fact is, you've got a bold goal about what you're looking for, and the goal is 100%. Whether you get there or not, you're going to look at it and see. But if you can, let's work this out with Trevor, and let's get you to come to one of our meetings, and let's see kind of what you're producing. We'd love to. I think everyone around here would love to go ahead and see that.
I will comment on that though. I would need the parents' permission, and I would need the students' permission to want to come and present. It won't be the whole class. I would pick. So.
Yeah, but if I'm going to lure them with chocolate and food and stuff like that, we'll probably get them pizza, whatever. We'll figure it out. Yeah. I think Trevor's got a comment.
Hopefully we'll get there by the end of May-ish. That's our goal, to kind of have it published by then. I don't know. We'll see.
I just wanted to pick up on something that Trustee Wilson had mentioned earlier about an authentic writing opportunity, highly engaging. So I actually had the opportunity to go to Brightstone Colony in the spring of last year, where the students took me on a tour of the colony. And what they showed me on the colony was their initial draft of their each part of the colony, if you're not from Brightstone. And so I got to hear their initial draft while we toured the various sites around the colony, where I was then afforded the opportunity to ask questions, which may have highlighted for the students that they were missing information, and then they would go back and do a revision, and I think the writing has continued from there. So I just know on the tour that I was on, the students were very engaged, highly engaged, and they were very excited to share about the colony. So either having the students come here and share, or having the trustees go to the colony and perhaps have another tour to the actual physical spaces and have the students share the book there, whichever works out in the spring, I think would be a fantastic way for the students to finish up the hard work they put in. So,
yeah, I even like that idea too, Trev, about us going ahead and doing it. But again, you've made a pretty good statement here, George. I know you worked pretty hard towards it, and yeah, I think that if we can follow up one way or another by coming to you or you coming to us, Sarah's gonna kind of, this is Sarah here, that we're gonna put in our calendar. Let's see what we can do about trying to do that one way or another. Thanks, George.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
So on behalf of all of us, thanks for coming out, and now you're so happy. Stay for the next 2 hours. We're glad for you to stay, and just teasing you, George. Thanks very much for coming. We're in pretty good hands at your colony. Thanks.
Thank you.
So we're going to move along. We have the minutes from December the 3rd. So be it resolved that the board adopt the December 3rd minutes. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Smith and seconded by Trustee Rowland. Any questions to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. It passed 9-0. Thank you. Trevor, I am going to make a comment here before we move on. That was the quickest to the point presentation that we had, talking about here's our goal, this is what we're doing about it, and how we're going to get there. Kudos. Kudos. Pardon me? Oh, there we go. Thanks. Oh, keep going. Okay, I got it. Thanks. Superintendent's report, Mr. Reid.
Well, we'll see what we can do about the schedule here now with the superintendent's report. So. Yeah, not too much to share from actually the last time we've met, even though it's been a full month, but just a couple highlights there as they're in the report. We did roll out our new procedure related to school closure that we were required to do with the new provincial teachers collective agreement. So lots of information out to staff and families. The new procedure is posted on the website. Was not expecting a significant amount of feedback in any way, shape, or form, but the little bit of feedback that we did get was like, yep, that makes sense, or yeah, that's a good change. So it was either very neutral or positive in terms of the feedback that we did get. So, and hopefully we don't have to test that out for the remainder of the winter season. So As we've heard from a few of the trustees, a big thank you to our staff and our students who prepared their concerts. Thank you to our parents who went out and supported and attended the concerts. Our office staff here at SEC did get out to most of the sites and took in many of the concerts and, you know, brought back lots of great stories and accolades for our students. One particular highlight that I think I'm going to put on my calendar for next year is I think I'm going to make sure that I attend the Gross Colony concert, because apparently that is just some fantastic comedy put on by the students out there. Mr. Wilgosh came back and he said he had a bellyache and sore cheeks. He was laughing so hard throughout the concert. So I flagged that one from my calendar for next year. So as a superintendent, of course, we're continuing with the regular school visits. Our next round of visits, the assistant superintendent and I are combining our visits, so we're going out to schools together to talk to school admin teams. So we'll see how that goes, and if that, you know, get some feedback and see if this format's appreciated before we make some decisions about how school visits are going to go forward in the future. As I've also noted, there several visits to schools in December to discuss staffing and budget for the schools that requested an in-person meeting, you know, with those. And so very busy month of December visiting schools. As we come into January, we're wrapping up senior one in or semester one in our high school. That, of course, brings some exams in all of our courses, including our grade 12 provincial tests. So I just put the dates on there for information. The ELA started today, the Francais 40 starts tomorrow, and then the math comes later in the month. And then finally, just January, as we start budget looking ahead to next year, we also start kindergarten registration looking ahead to next year. And so traditionally, we have offered kindergarten registration online, but not all of the forms, and that still required parents to come into the school to complete some of that registration package. This year, through the work of our division principals, led by Mr. Gasperti, all of our forms are going online. So parents will have the option of registering exclusively online, which gets emailed to the division, which gets screened and then sent out to schools so they have the information. And if people choose not to register online, we still, of course, have the in-person option available at all of our schools who prefer, for families that prefer to do it that way. And then, as in recent years, our kindergarten registration information will be advertised in the Clipper, shared on the division website, and shared in various forms by our schools, and that will be happening next week. I think the information is starting to roll out. So,
Thanks, Trevor. Any questions for Mr. Reid? Okay, we're going to move on. Our board reporting schedule. So Sarah, please note that as we get into the month of May and June, that let's follow up and with George and remind Trevor, let's follow up, and if there's some way that we can connect back with George. I can tell you that back in 1992 or 3, I brought my kids from Saugeen First Nation to George's colony, and he gave us a tour, and they were very, very impressed, certainly with it. That's a long time. Go ahead, Trev.
just related to the board reporting schedule, you'll see that for this meeting we had the early childhood readiness report that was due. I just didn't collect all that data from the people involved for that report, so instead of reaching out over the holidays to finish that up report, we just left it off, so we'll bring that forward at our next meeting. So.
Thanks, Trev. And Trev, you did let us know at agenda setting, so I should have said that, so thanks very much for that. Jody, Secretary Treasurer's report?
Thanks. Do you want to? Yeah. Okay. Trevor's going to share that for me. Thank you so much. Since we're sharing the ClickShare tonight, so it'll be hopefully Trevor driving the presentation tonight. But anyways, with that being said, tonight I just wanted to highlight a couple things. Transportation. The month of December was not an easy one for our bus drivers. There was a couple mornings where we had a minimum of 3 buses in the ditch, and but I have to say kudos to the team that rallied together, that were able to bring out the spare buses, transfer the kids onto the other bus and get them to school. Some of them were running a little bit late, but everybody did what they needed to do to get the students safely to and from home and school. So I want to say kudos to the transportation department for all that work. It's not an easy task. Those mornings in December, there were a couple early ones that between Trevor, myself, and Jason Ziprick, we had to have some early morning chats, but we didn't want Christmas concerts canceled. It was a very important time of the year, and I'm happy to say that Transportation Department did a great job. Over the period of time, we also acquired our 7 new buses. So if anybody wants to know where the new buses were rolled out, one went to Enola area, one went to Hazel Ridge, and there was a number of buses out to the Oakbank Dugald area. So we had a number of buses that were rolling out with the new fresh bus smell. Payroll and finance, they're getting ready to prepare for the T4 tax season. So we're preparing and doing analysis already. So that'll be, the goal is to issue T4s in the month of February. They're due at the end of February, but in the last couple of years, they've been very successful of getting that information out early. So we want to continue with that progress. I have an exciting announcement, I guess, for our sad and exciting mixed emotions. I have Lisa Natishan, our finance/payroll officer. She has provided us her notice of retirement. I just want to say thank you, Lisa, for all your years of dedication. She's a staple in the Sunrise Business Center office, so to see her decide to retire, it was happy, but she will be missed. And she was happy to say that she would like to be added to the sub list. So it'll be nice to see her, that she'll fill in for clerical positions. She's even willing to help out when staff are on vacation at SBC, and she'll come back and help out where she can. So her last day will be January 31st. So it's right around the corner. So we've been busy posting the job position, and interviews are underway this week, and we hope to have somebody start the last week of January. If it's all successful, they can start training with Lisa and onboarding as soon as possible. So for purchasing and finance, they're reviewing an updated quote in this current year's budget. In our current 24-25 budget, we had put in there an online payment system that allows families to make payments for their field trips and complete forms online. So we're looking at, as well as a debit/credit card machine terminals that are available at the schools. So we've updated a quote, and by the end of the month, we'll decide if it's within budget and what the rollout would look like for the next couple of months. So we'll keep the board updated and schools updated as to the progress of this. I know I've had a lot of conversation this year with schools, and they're excited to hear that this is something that the division is going to be pursuing. And I guess just rolling down to maintenance, I just wanted to highlight that there's been a lot of discussion regarding the SCI capital project. We've identified some issues leading up to winter break. We had a number of contractors out on the site or on site during winter break to really test the system without any staff and students around. We should have a report. I had an interim report, I believe, sent to me today to identify some of the issues and what they want to resolve. The next follow-up question is, when are these issues going to be resolved? It sounded like there were some parts that were ordered and they finally got them in. So we'll see if that has any effect on any of the issues of the heating issues that's going on at SCI. Sounds like the project is near to completion, but unresolved issues with the heating and temperature and fluctuations in some rooms to be identified and resolved. So we've informed the province that this project's still outstanding, and we're not ready to close and sign off on it yet. It's still ongoing to resolve it. So that's the update with that. Just an update as well in maintenance. Maintenance has been pretty busy. So when I wrote this report, I was aware that Rita Ness, she provided her notice of retirement as well. Her last day, though, was December 31st. So she provided notice after our last board meeting. so I couldn't update the board with that retirement notice. So Rita is going to be a face again. She was a huge asset to the maintenance department, and we're going to greatly miss her. I know she was somebody that I stayed in touch while I was not working at Sunrise, but I still stayed in touch with her. So she was a wonderful person and wonderful to work with. So I just wish Rita all the best, and she will be missed at the office. Another retirement notice is our maintenance manager, and this is not on the report because it was after I completed the report and submitted it, but Derek Ryback has announced his retirement, and his last day is going to be February 28th. So unfortunately, those are some big shoes to fill, so good luck to anybody who is going to be interested in filling those shoes. But we're looking forward to and hearing all the good news about Derek's retirement, because I know he has a lot of golfing planned in time to be spending with family. So many of us, I feel, will still be in touch with him after he's retired, and he will be missed at the office. So, and I hope everybody, welcome back. This is our first board meeting after the new year, and it's great to be back.
Thanks, Jody. Any questions for Jody? Trustee Dent?
I just want to double back to the Springfield Collegiate Capital Project. You talked about heating and cooling issues. Just wondering, and I know you have a report that you received today, but when you talk about temperature fluctuation, can you give us an idea of what the range of temperatures are, and an idea of how many classrooms are affected by that?
So off the top of my head, there's 6 rooms that we're mainly targeting, that we find and it seems when we do the temperature checks, when we look online, it's a difference of about 2 to 4 degrees. So the fluctuation doesn't seem great, but at the same time, it seems how the system is kicking in. So the amount of airflow is having an impact. So if it's fresh air coming in at minus 30, it's taking a while for it to heat. So they're taking a look to see if the system is recognizing the right temperature, and as well as recognizing the temperature that's coming into the classroom. Is it being heated properly? So it looks like there's, again, 6 classrooms they're main focused on. A number of classrooms seem that they're regulating properly. So they're looking at multiple things. There's about 3 different contractors and 3 different technical pieces that are being reviewed. So there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen right now, so they're trying to figure out which part of the recipe is not the right piece. So it's very challenging, and unfortunately for the school, it must be very frustrating for them to be dealing with this 2 years into this project that we anticipated that it should have been done by now.
Thanks, Jody. Anything else for Jody? Sounds like Jody, some engineers need to get their heads together. Jeff?
Yeah, if I can just add to Jody's comments there about SCI, is the work is completed. The system is not functioning the way that it's supposed to. And so hearing the frustrations, Jody and I actually attended a site, well, Jody and I actually requested a site meeting just before Christmas in December that we both attended. And I think we highlighted the need for people to start working together and put some pressure on getting this project across the finish line. So I think we had, evolved to the point that each of the contractors with each of their own set of parts or responsibilities were satisfied to point fingers at everybody else. And so we got everyone to the table, including the general contractor, and impressed upon the need for them to work together to find a resolution. So we did get some positive feedback from school principal Mr. Dell in terms of that was the first sort of steps forward that he has seen in a while. And yeah, looking forward to hearing some of the outcomes of the testing and the working that they did over the spring break, because by or winter break, thank you. So because by the end of the meeting, just prior to Christmas, there actually was a recognition that, yes, maybe the system isn't working the way that it should be, and that some of the programming needs to be changed and those types of things. So we'll see where we get to. We're not planning on letting it go. We're going to stay on top of that, including with, Mr. Ryback. And then especially now with Mr. Auerbach's retirement coming, we'll certainly be pushing very hard to see this project come to conclusion as quickly as possible. So. Yeah, so to your question there, Paul, there is one final payment that is still to be made, and we have discussed and has decided that there will be no further payments made to the contractors. They are requesting partial payment of what is left, and that has, we've said no thank you. We'll get this project done before we offer that to anybody else at this point in time. So.
All right, thanks, Trevor and Jody. I appreciate it. Anything else for Jody? Okay, we'll move on. Board business. You have there in front of you monthly enrollment information. If you can put that up, Trev, or one of you can put that up. That's there for information for you. It just gives you some ideas as where you are, where we look at with fluctuations with some of our schools. But it's there. You have it. Any questions on that? Okay, thanks. You have the grade 1 to 8 report card data, term 1. I'm going to give that to you, Trev.
You have the report, the data at this point in time. There's not really too much to comment on because it's just our baseline data. It's the first time this year that we've collected it. The real telling data will be looking for growth and improvement in our students when we collect this again in March. So really at this point in time, it's just a baseline report. And you know, I went through the data. It's sort of as we would expect, you know, generally speaking, where we would think our students would be this time of year. Like I say, it's the growth we look for when we do this again in March and again in June is the critical piece for this.
Anything for Trevor? Okay, thanks, Trev. Community school report.
So just in terms of the community schools report, I think I've spoken about Powerview as a community school a couple times before, and in the report there I've just included some information from this community schools program website with Manitoba Education, just kind of overviews the program. I think the new information that's, you know, worth noting is that in November this past fall we had representatives come out from the province associated with the community schools program, and they did a site visit at Powerview. They were actually very impressed with what they saw. In general, they thought that Powerview School was probably already functioning as a community school, even though it hadn't been recognized at that. Many of the initiatives and the extra things that they do for students and families were consistent with the community schools program. I asked them for some direct feedback, and you know, the 3 bullets there about hiring the full-time community connector, establishment of a community room, which you were all in when we did the site visit there at Powerview, and the recognition that they were beginning of programming for families were all great first steps that they were really, they thought was very positive first steps to get the program going, so they were happy to see that. In addition to the $80,000 we get for the hiring of the community connector and associated programming, we've also talked about the fact that as a community school, they receive $120,000 specifically dedicated to Powerview School for the University Accessible Nutrition Program. And I put down there the 6 bullets of things that are going on in the school to date. And then also just attached to the report is I put Equal Powerview School first interim report to the community schools group for your information.
Thanks, Trev. Anything for Trev? Trustee Boyton?
Just a concern that, you know, because of what happened with Jordan's principal funding and how it affects some of the school divisions, it says that we would maintain that designation for future years, but does that guarantee that we would also maintain the funding that they're giving us now?
So as long as the province would continue to fund the program, right? And so like at some point in time, if they decided that the program wasn't being successful or couldn't continue, or there was a change in government and the program would, you know, cease, then the program would just continue. It would not continue to operate. And so I would compare it to sort of the Building Student Success with Indigenous Parents grant, which I think, you know, we've been getting in the division for 18 years. It's sort of, as soon as you're part of the program, you maintain standing in the program as long as it continues. And so if the program's canceled, Powerview School is no longer part of it. Powerview School will continue to be part of it as long as the program continues, or until the economics of the community change to the point that they would no longer qualify or be recognized. And
So Trev, I just have one question as I'm reading, and if you move up a little bit, it talks about the community schools are an integral part of the community as places of integrated education, public health, social policies, and programs. Schools can promote student and family well-being in ways that advance core educational goals. So I'm reading in that the goals of this program certainly are what that paragraph talked about, but relating to student school readiness, attendance, family, community, and student engagement, and well-being and success. So at the end of the day, I think that are we measuring, or are we trying to figure out, is that what we're doing having an effect on that?
yeah, so those would be the goals of Powerview School. They would need to have their initiatives focus in those 4 areas. And I believe if you have a look at the plan that they submitted to the province, they have to break it down in those 4 areas. And I think in their initial stages, they've only identified 1 or 2 goals in each of those areas to try and move that forward. But yeah, helping our youngest students become ready for kindergarten, improving attendance, which we've highlighted already this evening, having families and more connected to the school, which is some of the programming that the Community Connector is doing. And focus on student well-being and success, right? This is the end of the day. Making the connection between the first 3 bullets and student academic success is probably going to be a bit of a challenge, but the program itself wants those 3 things done, and the leap of faith being that it's going to make a difference for students. And so.
Good. That'll be very interesting for us as to, again, lots of money put towards it, but what are we doing? Is it having an effect on our family and our community and our students? That'll be interesting to see. Thanks. Okay. Huge job for them. And so somehow, Trev, we're looking at how we measure, how you're going to measure that, and come back to us with regard to, okay, what do we know certainly about it? I know we need to report to the province, but let's come back to us and let's find out kind of what we're doing working. Perfect. Jody, I do want to come back to one of the things that was the letter that came from TRAF, and it's just one of those things that it's a nice work. Congratulations. They're happy with the stuff that you guys are doing. Again, it's always great when we get those kind of things, and so kudos to you and your group for putting that together. So thanks, Jody, for that. Administrator evaluations, Trev.
So as the board knows, we're now evaluating all of our school-based principals, vice principals, and teachers on a 5-year rotation. In short, we have a very good process through our teacher PLP to evaluate our teachers. It clearly identifies a set of criteria and the process to be followed in terms of how we observe and we evaluate our teachers. Bit of a challenge is we do not have the same set of criteria for our administrators, nor do we have a good process to evaluate our administrators. We do have this CELT professional learning plan, which is quite philosophical. And we also have a Sunrise procedure administrator evaluations, but neither provides a clear structure or a clear set of criteria. So if we kind of go out sort of the general themes, in education, there's really 2 ways that administrators sort of in recent years have been evaluated. Number 1 is the administrator sets a learning goal, and they work towards achieving their own learning. Doesn't really speak to how well they do their job necessarily, but that's how they would be evaluated. That's type of the model that our CELT PLP follows, and the model that you would typically find in Canadian schools. The second way administrators are often evaluated is straight up against student performance. If your students do well academically, you are seen to be doing a good job as a school administrator. And this approach is what we would see more commonly in American schools. But if you look at sort of the literature across North America, those are the two ways that administrators are traditionally evaluated, and they're kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum. So currently in Manitoba, the best tool that we have, and it is a new tool, and it actually is a very good tool, is the Manitoba School Leadership Framework. And that's a document that Manitoba Education has put out that clearly identifies what is expected of school principals and assistant principals in terms of educational leadership in their buildings. And it does identify a very clear set of criteria and attributes that we would like to see in all of our building administrators. It doesn't, unfortunately, identify a process to evaluate administrators, but at least we have the first step. So when I go out this spring to evaluate our administrators, I will be taking the three-step approach that I've outlined there for you. I'll ask administrators to do a self-assessment using some of the tools included in the Manitoba School Leadership Framework, and I included one of those attached to the agenda item for you to preview. We'll follow it up with a meeting with each of the administrators where they can present their self-assessment to me, where I'll be asking them to provide the evidence of where they're at. So if they feel that they're doing a strong job in a particular area, I'll be asking them, well, how do you know that? What's your evidence? What feedback have you, gathered to support, your opinion of that? I'll also ask principals to work with me to design a short survey to be shared with their staff where they can collect some feedback from their staff in some key areas on how they're doing. That'll look different for every one of our administrators, but like I say, I'll be crafting that with them based on sort of their survey results. We wouldn't necessarily be able to use that as part of a formal evaluation, but it will be part of the feedback that we will use. Nowhere in our system do we sort of let the people that we supervise evaluate us, and I think our teachers union would take exception to that, and probably rightly so, but it is still a good step in terms of collecting feedback in terms of how we are doing. And then the third part is I will ask each administrator to identify an improvement goal and something that they can work on throughout the rest of the school year. So a little bit behind on the schedule in terms of completing these. I'll have to get out in January and meet with, I think it is the 6 administrators that are either new to Sunrise or are part of the rotation, and get this process started so we can collect some good feedback on our administrators. So I do believe that if we complete these 3 steps, we'll be able to have a pretty good look at how our administrators are doing in their schools.
Thanks, Trev. Any comments or questions for Trev? So I can tell you one comment I'm going to share with you, Trev, as being a person that's done this and a person that's been given feedback. Getting feedback from parents is also valuable. So again, it's always tricky about, you're asking a survey and, do you send it out to 600 parents, in a school. But if you can get feedback from parents, and again, the purpose of an evaluation is for improvement, right? It's about how our school principals are going to go ahead and improve. And if you can get focus groups, or some kind of feedback in them to give you, and again, you're the one that's going to filter it all. But I'll tell you something, if that's a possibility, think about it. But getting feedback from parents, and again, some parents enjoyed doing that, again, because everybody's looking for growth. Anyone else? Okay. International field trips. Trev?
So really this one is just about information, for the board. It falls under the category, but it's not something that you necessarily asked to see, but just something in good conscience that I thought I should bring to the board's attention. Just some background information on international field trips. So I did put on there some historical information about how often this pops up in the division. Roughly 19 times, going back to 2015. We had a little bit of break in there during the COVID years. And we have 3 going out this spring break, and 2 potentially going out next year. one of the things that has really changed about these is cost. You know, the cost. Like so many other things that we see in society today and in education, whether it be resources or materials for students, the costs have just escalated. The one trip that you've already approved to France next year is going out at a cost of, you know, $4,900 a student and $5,900 a chaperone. The one that you'll actually be asked to approve later this evening has an estimated cost of $6,000 a student. It doesn't mean that they're not worthwhile. It doesn't mean they're not wonderful experiences for students. It's just I just want to, you know, bring to the board's attention that, you know, that's what these are costs. So you're just making informed decisions as you consider them. Certainly I am not proposing in any way, shape, or form that we change direction on this. It's just, you know, if not tonight, probably sometime in the future, if the board did want to talk about this, you know, there would be the opportunity to do that. So just that's all, just for your information.
Thanks, Trevor. Any comments for Trevor? So Trevor, we did ask you to go ahead and do this. And these field trips now, as like I think that you wrote in here or that I see of, we're now getting into basically travel clubs because it's not a grade 9 history class that's going. It's kids from all over the school that can, for the most part, you know, afford it, you know, and are able to go. And I'm not saying that they're not valuable. My family's been on many of these, and so there's some great learning for kids. However, it's not a school field trip because we're not taking the grade 11 class from Whitemouth School to go somewhere, for the most part. We're taking who can afford it to go, so it is really a travel club, which is, hey, there's some really good things that are going on, and my kids have been on some of them, but it's a great point. And I think that it's worth a debate sometime for sure. Anybody else want to make comment? Trustee Boytson.
I just want to say thanks for providing this because it definitely gives food for thought. I was one of those kids that never did get to go on any of these trips because we couldn't afford it. My kids never went on any of these trips because they couldn't afford it. I always thought, though, that, you know, the kids that were in the French program and got a chance to go to Quebec and live the French, you know, for a week, and I thought that was amazing, and those kids should have had the opportunity. But like you say, it is a travel club now, and it is expensive, and times are tight, and if our staff is giving up all this time, it is still a cost to us, too, as a division. So it is definitely something to think about.
Anyone else? Trustee Wilson?
I guess for me, I worry about equity and whether or not there's any provision, and probably not, but any provision for those that can't afford it to join some of these excursions.
Donna, I'm going to let Mr. Reed answer that one.
Well, I know that I think I highlighted it there in one of the bullets. Schools certainly provide fundraising opportunities. I don't know if we would have any schools that would provide enough fundraising opportunities that would allow a student to pay their full wage through fundraising exclusively. I don't believe that any of our schools subsidize trips of this nature. I think all of our schools are willing to subsidize trips of that educational nature to make sure that we have equity in those very curricular-based field trips. I know that's going on. I would not be able to comment if any of that happens in these situations, but I know when we revised our field trips and student fees policies, that was one of the things that the principals highlighted themselves, was that we need to be careful with our wording in terms of supporting families because we cannot support families and students with financial subsidies for these types of trips. They're too large.
It's a great question, Donna. You know, it's $1 million question about equity and those kind of things, but yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, Trevor, because I would hope that, yeah, if we need to go on a grade 5 field trip, you know what, we're going to get all of our grade 5 kids going, then let's do that. And if somebody can't afford the money, and most schools know that, we're going to send our kids. But if we're going on a field trip that's costing $6,000, I certainly hope that we're not taking 2 $2,000 out of something from the school so that someone can go. Because that's a tough one, for sure. Lars?
There's some accessibility and inclusion requirements that schools are generally expected to meet. Like if a class is going on something and you happen to have a student with a disability, you are required to make accommodations for that person to take part. I know that we've had some band trips a few years ago, and there was a student with some significant medical needs, and we planned for that. If it is a school field trip, that is a curricular planned trip, there are expectations, and that's where I think the debate is here on, like, what is this? Where that line is I also, like, it's gray, and there's great opportunities it's difficult.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to answer that question right now or talk about it, but thank you for bringing this forward. Anyone else? Trustee Smith?
How much does one of these cost the division of our pocket? Do we have any idea, like, for example? No?
I don't believe that we're, I cannot say this with 100% certainty in terms of where schools may get the last few dollars, but I don't believe that any of our schools go into these trips with the intentions of, paying anything out of their school funds, their operating funds. If you want to comment or follow up on that, if you know, but.
Yeah, in the event, we don't really see schools diving in and using their operating funds to support these programs. The only thing around substitute teachers, when those teachers are away and chaperoning the event, but there appears to be events where there's general fundraising or general donations that come in that will help offset those substitute costs. So we've been seeing schools being I guess creative or creating an opportunity to avoid funding it through operating, and it'll be funded through other avenues, but it won't be, we don't usually see it coming from the students. It'll be sometimes a donation that's made and transferred over to fund those substitutes.
So to be very honest, to answer your question, if we have a group of 20 kids and there's 2 staff members that are going and it costs $6,000, that group has to fundraise for the $12,000 for those staff to go. And I would say that probably for the most part, the substitute teacher cost for the staff leaving is probably picked up by the school. Maybe. We haven't asked that question. Yep. Robin?
So in terms of substitute costs, I think most of these international field trips are scheduled for spring break. So there might be a day maybe for that. So.
And again, kudos to our staff for giving up time to go ahead and take kids, and doing those kind of things. So, again, we turn around and say thank you to our staff for that. So thanks for pointing that out, Robin. Okay, let's move on. We have 8.6 Broken Head River Recreation Commission. There's some information that came through. It's there for information. Go ahead, Robin.
So once a year at our inaugural board meeting, we do appoint a trustee to this position. And for the last couple of years, that's been myself. As you read in here, and this was actually presented in a correspondence at our meeting in December, which I neglected to comment on that time, the Broken Head River Recreation Commission has changed their terms of reference, and a trustee is no longer to sit on their board. It's now a student representative from a Cole Edward Shire school will be sitting on that. So I am now retired, looking for a job.
Thanks, Robin. Any comment? Okay. Let's move on. They didn't want our help. They didn't want our input. We'll see where that comes around. Enola School Grade 5 to 8 ski trip to Assisipi. Be it resolved, the board approve in principle the Enola School Grade 5 to 8 ski trip to Assisipi Winter Park, January 28th and 29th, subject to superintendent's approval. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by trustee Boytson, seconded by trustee Rowland. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. And it passed, 9-0, thank you. This is Springfield Middle School, grade 6 language camp at Manitou on April 22nd, Camp Manitou, sorry, not just Manitou. April 22nd to 24th, be it resolved the board approve in principle the Springfield Middle School, grade 6 language camp at Camp Manitou, April 22nd to 24th, subject to superintendent's approval. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by trustee Rowan and seconded by trustee Dent. Questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Passed 9-0, thank you. 8.9 is the Springfield Middle School Grade 8 Ukrainian education trip to Vegreville, Alberta, and Saskatoon. So be it resolved, the board approve in principle the Springfield Middle School Grade 8 Ukrainian education trip to Vegreville, Alberta, and Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, May 28th to the 31st, subject to the superintendent's final approval. And this is Springfield Middle School. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by trustee Dent and seconded by trustee Rowan. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Passed 9-0, thank you. This is Springfield Collegiate. Be it resolved, the board approve in principle the Springfield Collegiate Institute trip to Europe, March 27th to April the 5th, subject to the superintendent's final approval. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by trustee Dent and seconded by trustee Rowan. Questions? None, will vote. Did I say something wrong? All right, it passed 9-0, thank you. So we're now into committees and reports. Our policy committee, trustee Rowan, anything to report from policy?
Nothing to report. Our next meeting is this Thursday.
Trustee Nichol, anything to report from the finance committee?
No, except that the minutes are there, and in the minutes there are some questions we asked, and we don't know, we won't get the answer until the meeting that we have next week. So make sure, if you're interested in the answers, check to see the minutes after the meeting next week.
Is there any debate that we should have on these questions at all? Or should wait? I guess you're telling me by that look we're going to wait. Got it. Oh, so is there, you talked about these questions that are down here. Is there any debate that we should have or any heads up? I know that people have had the chance to read it. Is there anything that that they should take a look at?
Not yet, because we haven't got the answers yet, so.
Okay. Thank you. So you have them 8:14, you have those minutes that are there. Thanks, Don, for that. 8:15, be it resolved the board receive the November 2024 check register. The total amount of checks of $4,955,593.08 received on December the 19th by the Finance Committee for information as submitted. Moved by trustee Nichol and seconded by trustee Boytson. Questions on it? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. Education Foundation Committee. Jody, is there anything from the Education Foundation Committee that we need to share? We have there was a meeting in November. There's another meeting that's coming up shortly, or is to be determined. But is there anything that we need from the Education Foundation?
No, I think we have 2 scheduled meetings a year, and potentially the next meeting could be as late as April if we choose. But from our meeting in November, it was identified that we will modify our website to have more information publicly about our Education Foundation. So during the budget process, just after that, we will have a team of people working on improving the website and putting more information out publicly, how folks can make donations to the Education Foundation, should they choose.
Thanks. Anything from anyone else on the Education Foundation? Okay. Land ad hoc land planning, Trustee Rowan, is there anything from you that you want to add?
No updates at this time.
Okay, thank you. So divisional financial summary report is there available. Jody, is there anything you want to comment on? It's for information for you to read. Is there anything that anybody wants? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you, Jody, for that. We have board correspondence. There's some attachments there. Nice to know information. Thanks for putting that together, Sarah, from the newspapers. We have upcoming meetings, so we're going to get busy in the next little while. As trustees with regular board meetings, with budget meetings, you're going to get busy over the next little bit. There's a press release that's there. I'm moving on to questions from the public. Jody, are there any questions that are sent from the public?
No, all quiet from the public tonight.
All right. Is there anything that I've missed before we do not have to move into in-camera? We're done there. We're ready to adjourn. Is there anything that I'm missing? Look at that, 8:15. Boy, maybe they did something to my brain and just made it go faster, didn't they? Is that what it is? All of you are saying that. I know it's all in your minds as to what it is. Okay, we're going to have adjournment. Thanks very much. Nice work, everyone.